Hello, and welcome to episode 31, The Quest for Perfectionism and Receiving Outside Validation. We are going to dive into a really cool subject today, one that I think will really help you to uncover the ways in which you're living your life and trying to be perfect, and all of these like ridiculous standards that you're trying to live up to that are not helping you to create joy, and they're not helping you to really live from your gifts. When we're so concerned about screwing things up, we oftentimes hold back and we don't let our real energy flow and our real wisdom flow and our real brilliance flow. So this is going to be a great conversation. I have a couple of things to announce, which I'm really excited about. I actually won my body fat competition. I know, crazy, amazing. I'm so pumped, and it feels really good, and it feels like a massive accomplishment. I mean, this was the fourth time I was doing this body fat competition, and I really fine-tuned this time. I really cleaned up my thinking and my energy on it, along with my diet, of course, my exercise, of course. I did not work as hard as I did in the past. And this is very interesting when it comes to law of attraction and manifesting what you want and creating from energy flow. So the first couple of competitions, I worked out sometimes very often twice a day, and I would do two workouts back to back. So burning 1,000 calories a day, being super strict in my diet. I did have a few like cheats here and there, and I was way more disciplined this time, I think, because my husband was doing it with me. So it was a little easier to say no to the gelato and say no to the alcohol and all of that because we were in it together. So I think the synchronicity of teamwork really worked well for us. But I didn't hold on so tight. I wasn't desperate to win this time. I definitely trusted in, universal flow. I allowed myself to work out as hard as I could one day, one time a day. I did do a couple of runs during the week, let's see, last week or the week before, and I was just exhausted the next morning. And I'm like, you know what? This is just like killing my body, and that's not what I'm doing this for, right? Like I got clear about what I was actually doing the competition for. It wasn't for the win, it wasn't for the money, it wasn't to prove myself. It was to get fit, healthy, and strong, and to put myself in a very focused position. I was joking around the other day and I said, when I'm in these competitions, I kind of am protected from myself, like because I do have a very strong integrity with myself and my own word. I won't cheat on myself. Are you cheating on yourself? Like, how are you cheating on yourself? Are you saying that you're going to do something and then not going through with it because you don't have that integrity to yourself? Like, if you can't be true to your word to yourself, then who are you being true to? You got to start with you. You got to start with yourself. So that is definitely why I do the competition. So my husband came in second. I'm super proud of him. He has done phenomenal since he joined the gym. He's gotten so focused. His body looks amazing. He has really released a lot of body fat. He wasn't really fat to begin with, but now we're seeing that he really is shaping up, and it's amazing and awesome. So he came in second. So now we have to do it again. And of course, I'm going to do it with him because that's just how we roll. So I'm kind of actually excited to be able to do it again. I don't know when the next one is, and hopefully it's not before the holidays. But again, I'm like, if it is before the holidays, then it protects me from myself, and that's probably a good thing. I don't know why we need protection from that, like from eating junky food and alcohol. I don't know why I even need protection from that, but it's a programming, right? That we live our lives rewarding ourselves with food, rewarding ourselves with things that are not good for us. And now that I've been away from it for so long, I've literally been in competition for almost a whole year. I'm realizing how these foods really affect me, and how, when I put some junk food in my body, it just reacts, and it's not good. It's not good. It doesn't make me feel good. So if you've got a high tolerance to junk food, that's not good. That's not good. You really got to clean out your system and then let your body really take in some really good, healthy foods that are going to promote muscle. And that was another thing that we were talking about. And if you're getting older, like we are, not older, but I'm almost 50. My husband's in his 50s. And it's like we look at older people and we're like, we want to preserve everything we have. Like it's almost like we're in the sweet spot right now where we have the energy, we've got the determination, and we really want to conduct from these healthy physical bodies so that, when we're 75, 80, we can chase our grandkids around, and we want to live life to the fullest. If you want to live life to the fullest, your health is like a number one. That mind training, that health training, like all of that stuff that's going to help you conduct from good energy, from vitality, from life source. You've got to be in shape. You got to eat healthy foods. You've got to drink water. You've got to do all those things that are going to fuel a life well lived. If you're just laying around eating junk food and watching TV, you're not living life to the fullest. Don't even tell me you are, because you're not. Because you're not. Okay. So perfectionism, I'm so excited. I have amazing people in my groups that are bringing me these really cool topics. And perfectionism is something that I have definitely strived for my whole life. I am a Virgo. I don't really like to connect signs too much to attributes, but it's true. Like Virgos tend to have a level of perfectionism. I also think that perfectionism connects with our personalities. If we have that type of personality where we strive to be the best, where we always want to, I believe it comes from, an energy of wanting to prove ourselves to others because we're not really sure who we are. Then there's that piece of it. And then there's the whole social programming of growing up, of wanting to get the right answers, of wanting the teacher to think that we're smart, wanting people to think that we're smart, wanting to be liked and to be loved and to be validated. It all goes with perfectionism. So I looked up the definition of perfectionism, as I love to do. And it is a person who refuses to accept any standard short of perfection. So again, a very general definition, a little bit like, well, what does that even mean? That's what I thought when I read this. Like, what does it even mean to be perfect? What does it really mean? Like, whose standard are we living up to? Is it like checking off all the boxes on an activity? Is it, a job well done? Like, who is the person who judges the perfection? Well, usually it's us, right? Because even if we're looking outside of ourselves for that outside validation, if we're looking to the boss, if we're looking to the teacher, if we're looking to our husband or our wife or our kids for the validation, then we're allowing them to judge what the level of perfectionism is. What I've seen and what I've felt is that perfectionism really comes from our own judgment. It really comes from ourselves. And as long as we feel like we've done the best we could do, and even if we have made mistakes, we've owned up to those mistakes and we've come to the table without shame or guilt for making a mistake. And I'm going to get into that a little bit because I've got a couple stories on that one. And when we come to the table, like just, ourselves, like our true selves, like our true worthy, deserving selves, when we come to the table that way, there is no standard of perfection. It's literally like I am learning, expanding, and growing on this journey, and I am bringing the best of myself. And if I don't show up with the best of myself, I'm going to own that shit. I'm going to sit there and I'm going to own it. I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to be humble because I know that that vulnerability and that humbleness are part of my expansion and growth. They truly are. When we can come to the table and not feel less than, when we can own up to our crap, when we can own up and go, okay, I'm going to learn from this. If we don't own up to stuff, I don't really think that we have a very valuable lesson plan going on, really, if we don't own up to it. If we blame other people, if we put the blame on other people and we don't really own up to our own shortcomings, times that we didn't fully show up, if we don't own up to that, then how do we learn from it is the question. So I grew up definitely in a way of always wanting to be perfect. I was the second born of three children, and the oldest child was very intense and somewhat troublesome. So I kind of became the firstborn kind of by default. So the firstborn, if you ever look up birth order stuff, which is really cool, again, I don't like pigeonholing us. Like I don't like pigeonholing us in our signs and saying this is the way we are, or pigeonholing people and saying you're the firstborn, so you're supposed to be this way, because it wasn't the case in my family. Firstborns are typically pleasers, and they're typically kind of a go with the flow kind of person, and they kind of show up. Typically, doesn't have to be that way. So because my older sibling was not that way, I had to I think we kind of we kind of create the opposite of whatever our first sibling did or the sibling next to us. In fact, I talked to a mother of 10 children, and she told me that her kids went from compliant to, we'll say strong-willed, compliant to strong-willed, compliant to strong-willed, all the way down the line. So in that order, the first was compliant, the second was strong-willed. And by strong-willed, I mean they kind of have their own agenda and they're not so easygoing. They can be, oversensitive, they can be hard to manage, different things like that. So I definitely saw it in our family, but it changed as the birth order changed for sure. Not totally across the board. So as I became this people pleaser and this person of perfectionism, because my older sibling was not that and I could be that, I could fill that role in my family. I put myself to a lot of standards. I got straight A's in school. I was the only family member who went to college at the time. So there were these big grand ideas for me. I started out college as a paralegal. I had an idea that I was going to become an attorney. That was the idea. And then I got pregnant at 19. Oops. Right? The truth is, all I ever wanted to do was be a mother. That was all I ever wanted, was to be a mother and a wife. I wanted to have children. I wanted babies. I wanted to take care of things. That was what I really, really wanted. But because of the perfectionism standard and because I was very smart, I was pushed into this social programming of college and a big career and all of that. And it didn't work. It didn't work. I just really wasted the money on the college. I really did. So I never did anything with paralegal. I was a paralegal for like a minute, a couple times for like a minute. Hated it, hated it, hated it. So that's just the way life goes, right? So in that perfectionism of always having like my house perfect, if you ever came to my house from the time we were, you know, teenagers. I mean, we had our own place at 19 and my house was always very perfect. The bed was always made, the things were always in their place. And in that perfectionism, I created a lot of angst in my family because things had to be a certain way. It was like that control issue, right? Like everything's got to be perfect and I have to look perfect because if God forbid anybody should stop by and see that I don't have my shit together. It's all about judgment. Perfectionism is all about being worried about what other people think of you, but also there's some internal stuff and we're going to touch on that as well, but a lot of it is based on being worried about what other people think, and that people may see something that is not perfect in you, and then they're going to judge you, and then they're going to talk about you, and they're going to tell people how imperfect you are. And the truth, the real truth of perfectionism is we actually give people permission when we are real, when we are our real authentic selves and we say, I don't have it figured out, or I screwed this up. And we talk about our process and we talk about what it means for us and the lessons that we're learning. We actually give people permission to be themselves. And I actually think that we become relatable. If we're in this high standard of perfectionism and people are watching us and they're like, oh my God, she always looks so great and she's always put together and I hate her. And we show them a little bit of our truth, a little bit of like who we really are, then it actually gives other people permission to do the same. And then they go, oh, she's not perfect. And that's great because now I can relate to her because I'm not perfect, because none of us are perfect. It's actually very, very freeing, and you're probably going to make deeper connections with people when you let go of this perfectionism bullshit. You're going to make deeper connections because people are going to feel like they can connect with you better. Okay, so it brings up this story for me, and this is so silly, and it's really weird how sometimes things like really stick in our minds, like things that happen to us, and it's such a small little example, but it came up today even when I was thinking about this. And oftentimes when I think about perfection, I think about this. So I was a stay-at-home mom for a long time, and I had my older girls were 10 and 9 when I had my two little ones. So I was always a room mom, always, like forever a room mom. And I was room momming with this other mom, and she was an attorney, right? Super successful, gorgeous house, husband, kids, everything's perfect. Everybody's always dressed to the nines, right? And at this point in our lives, we are I believe, yeah, we moved to our beautiful home. We had a nice house. It was dated, but it was a nice house. It was definitely dated, but it was gorgeous. It was like a big farmhouse with a wraparound front porch and a pool and a hot tub and the whole thing. So it was beautiful, but it wasn't like your standard of like these people are super wealthy, right? We were just building our business and just stepping into, a different level of abundance in our lives for sure. So I went to this classroom and it was like pancakes. I forget why, but we were making pancakes. I forget. I totally forget why. There was some kind of like thing where we did this thing where we made pancakes every year, and we had like a griddle in the classroom and we were making pancakes. And I've been a stay-at-home mom for a long time. I'm really really good at making pancakes. It's one of my one of my things I can brag about is like I'm a good pancake maker. They come out pretty freaking perfect. So we're making the pancake mix, and I flip them over, and she's like, they're perfect. Of course they're perfect because you're perfect. And I remember it just like taking me back and going, oh shit, like she thinks I'm perfect. Like she's got this like grand career. And those were the days where I could feel a little less than because I was just a mom. That was something that I used to say a lot. I'm just a mom. If you say that, please, I'm gonna smack you. Just a mom. That's like such an important role. It's an incredible role in our society, and it is not. We should get awards. We should get the Grammys or the whatever it is, the Golden Globes of momhood for real, because we're raising these little beings. We're raising our society, right? But that was my thing. I'm just a mom. So when she said that to me, it really caught me off guard, and it made me think like, oh, she thinks I'm perfect. Like that was that outside validation. Like it felt good, but it also had that twang of like jealousy. Like I was like, she's jealous of me? What? Right? So that's another thing that our perfectionism does is it drives jealousy from other people. They look at us and they're like, "Oh, she's all together. She's always all together," right? Like we got to show the world like who we really are, the truth of who we are and all of our imperfections. So another thing I thought of, because I have issues with this and I'm really working on it, but I'm not I'm gonna get better at that. Like I have to get better at this. I have issues with details. Like this has been across the board years and years and years. My poor husband, the things that I mess up. So I had organized this dinner for my gym. We were going to do this dinner at my favorite restaurant, and I missed some of the details. So, in missing some of the details, when everyone got their checks were more than they thought they were going to be. And it was a problem. It was a big problem. And it wasn't completely and totally my fault because there were other people involved, but I had to own it. I had to own it, and and I could have probably even owned it better. Like I wish it, whatever, shoulda, coulda, woulda. I had stood up and said something that night and really owned it because I didn't fully own it because I didn't say anything. I talked to the owner of my gym and we talked about it and I owned up to it and how I messed up. But those feelings of like shame and guilt and mistake and oh my god, I'm going to get in trouble were there, and I had to heal from that. So I had to ask myself like what's coming up, spend some time in meditation releasing those feelings, and then I had to start interrupting thoughts that beat myself up. Why do you always do this? What is your problem? Why aren't you perfect? Those things, that self-critical nature is what drives perfectionism. So we have to really work on that self-critical nature, that voice inside your head, the shitty committee that starts beating you up and creates a feeling of less than, where you feel, bad about yourself, where you feel down, where you're not in the flow of this beautiful life force. You're actually separating yourself from your inner being. You're separating yourself from God, source, universe, and what that being with that energy really feels about you. You're in complete separation. You're in a false belief system. So I worked on that energy. And then, just recently I had a thing happen with time. Time. Oh, time. Sometimes time. And it's funny because I'm in these groups, I'm running 3 groups and we're all in different time zones and I'm doing great with it. So it's not like across the board. It's just often like the details of things, like I don't double check. And that's what my husband's like, you got to double, triple check stuff, like your appointments and this and that. So the other day I was going to meet my media company. I hired a marketing company, and we were meeting for some video and photos. And he texted me the location at like 10 o'clock, and I was like, oh, it's at 11, right? And he was like, no, it's at 10. And I was like, oh shit. And I was already ready, so it wasn't a big deal. And I was only a couple minutes late. And I wasn't even late, because when I got there, it was the perfect time, because that's my belief. So I didn't have a ton of anxiety about it, but I did reflect, and I did go, okay, what am I going to do differently? Because I keep saying this shit. Like I keep saying, I've got problems with details. What am I going to do about it? Right. So today I actually have another meeting with him today, and they texted me. It was pretty funny. They texted me the confirmation on the time, but I had already gone in and checked the email again, check the email, check my calendar, make sure I'm on time. So I got to double check things. I got to just not take for granted that I know what's up, because I got a lot of stuff going on. I'm not going to deny myself the fact that I've got a million things happening, and I'm doing all these different things every day. It's not an excuse, but it's like, oh man, you got to really check your stuff. You really got to be on top of stuff right now. And that's the lesson. That's the lesson, right? And the secondary lesson underneath it is, no, I'm not perfect. And I don't ever promise to be perfect anymore. I used to. And it's okay that I'm not perfect. It does always work out for me. But with these issues, I am going to continually check the details and pay more attention and be more present, because that's where the rub is. So no, I'm not perfect. Okay, people. So perfectionism comes from childhood. Some of it can be personality. We can be perfectionists. Like we can just be people who, I mean, if you were to see my house, it's like I just like things in their place. I'm not a freak about it anymore. I don't cause issues with it anymore. In fact, when my family comes for the holidays, my house is trashed, and it's okay, right? Because I want to enjoy myself. I don't need to be this anal retentive, annoyed person all the time. I can let that part of myself go. And, I just like things in their place. And that's not about perfectionism as much as it is about the feng shui that I like, the energy that I like, the flow in my house. Comes from being scared to get in trouble, having the wrong answer, scared of judgment. That's probably the biggest one. Scared of looking bad and being worried about what people think. That's what perfectionism all comes from. When we start to let go of this need for perfectionism, right? This need to be worried about what everybody else thinks. When we start to let go, we actually allow and start to activate the co-creation of energy, the trust and faith that it's not just up to us so much, that we don't have to hold on so tight that we're making everybody around us miserable, including ourselves, that we can start to let go and trust that things are going to come into play to assist us. So that's the other part of perfectionism, is like, if it's going to be done perfectly, it's going to be done by me. And, I think a lot of moms can get into trouble with this when they let their kids do the chores, when they wash the dishes, or, if your husband ever makes the bed and you ever say anything about it not being perfect, he will never make the bed again. So as moms, when we're allowing our kids to do certain things, we've got to really pick and choose what we say. And instead of like redoing what they did, just let it go. Because if you want people to get better at things, A, they have to do them. And B, they have a different standard, right? Maybe they're not living up to your standard. And, if you start criticizing them, nobody's ever going to want to do anything for you. And then you're going to be a martyr, and you're going to be resentful. And that's stupid. I've done that. That sucks. Okay. So, perfectionism activates that self-critical conversation that is rooted in not feeling good enough and not feeling worthy. So when you start getting into that self-critical nature, when you start beating yourself up for perfectionism, not being perfect, and who is perfect anyways, and what the hell is perfection anyways, it's all based on judgment. It's all based on someone's perception. Like I could make my bed perfectly, and somebody who's an interior designer could come in, or my cleaning ladies, they're freaking amazing at making a bed and fluffing a pillow. They could come in and do it better. So is that the level of perfectionism that I'm going for every day? No, I'm just making my bed the way I like it to be, to my standards, right? So it's very up for perception, perfectionism. So there really is no this is perfect and this is perfectly done. There isn't, because it's based on perception and standard, your own standards. So go within and ask yourself, what am I really striving for? What am I really looking for? And what are the lessons that I need to come to when I'm not in this perfectionism state? It really is just a habit. There's a chemical release, there's a dopamine release or a control hormone release where you feel like you're in control when everything is perfect. And that's what it is. It's this level of control. Like everything has to be perfect. Everything has to line up. Everybody has to behave themselves. And I got to make sure that everything looks good to everybody else. It's such fantasy. Like it doesn't even lend to joy or freedom of expression or allowing the energy to flow. It doesn't allow any of that. So it's really a letting go process, and it is totally created from being out of sync with who you really are. So it's putting yourself in this position where you are not truly loving who you are and all facets of yourself, which means you accept your destiny, you accept your expansion and growth, and you get excited about the levels that you're at. And when you make a mistake, just like when stuff happens to you, the contrast happens to you, you get excited because you go, oh, good, something for me to work on, something for me to put my hands in the clay about, something for me to learn about myself, something for me to expand and grow from. So that's how you really embrace it. Okay, so along with perfectionism, I wanted to get into outside validation because I have noticed for myself the journey of outside validation. I, as a kid, was always looking for outside validation, always, because I didn't believe in myself. I had low self esteem and low self confidence. And I think that just literally came from, you know, being raised and being in a society of people who didn't know how to uplift. They didn't know how to inspire. They didn't know how to really draw from your gifts. They just looked at what was wrong with you and told you what you needed to work on. And that, as parents and as teachers, is very much the way we have raised generations of kids, telling them what's wrong with them, activating the problem, always focusing on their problems. Like if you have a child who, is struggling in math and you continually tell them that they're bad in math, they're going to continue to manifest being bad in math. That was, literally and I still say it. I'm not good at math. No, actually, now I just say I'm not a math person. It's just I am more of a writer. I'm more of I'm more into the English side of the brain, and that's cool. Like I don't hate myself for that anymore. I don't put myself down for that. Not like my D did on my report card when I didn't understand these ridiculous math problems that really had no bearing on my life whatsoever. you know, I wasn't getting into that profession. Let's put it that way, for sure. So, what are you focused upon? What are you focused upon with people, with your kids, with different people in your life experience? Are you focused on their problems? Are you focused on what's wrong with them? And with yourself, what are you focused on within yourself? Like, oh, I got to work on myself. I got to fix myself. I got to, I got to, and all of that energy is coming from lack. It's the lack of what we want. So it activates more and more of the problem. So you got to create some space from it. You got to sit down in that beautiful meditation practice. You got to take the time to separate yourself from that person that you've always known, that monkey mind that you have been driven by since you were little, the wounds, the traumas, the triggers, all of that stuff. You got to create that space. When you create that space, then you start to be at choice. And then you can go, do I really want to put myself down about this? Okay, so I screwed up. I screwed up, people. I screwed up. I'm sorry. I can take responsibility for it, and I can move forward and expand and grow and learn from my mistakes, and realize that when we do make these mistakes and we come from vulnerability, opening ourselves up, being authentic and real, humble, that we create more growth. We create way more growth than when we're trying to look like these perfect people that we want everybody to just bow down to. So when it comes to validation, I used to do a lot of things to try to get validation. I would clean the whole house, try to make it perfect because I just kept thinking about how happy my mom was going to be, how much she's going to say how great I am. I got straight A's in school for that reason. I studied. I mean, I was smart for sure, but I studied and I showed up for my teachers and I did all my homework and I was a good girl. Because if I was a good girl, that meant I was a good person. That meant that I was doing things right. That meant that I was perfect, right? Whew, it's a lot of stress. That's a lot of pressure. And we're seeing our kids across the board going through this stuff. And, that's why depression rates are up. And that's why there's so many mental health issues because we're not really getting to the root cause of the way people really feel and the way they really conduct themselves and what's really important in our society. What's really important to our kids, is it that they get straight A's or that they're happy? I mean, yeah. So connecting with that inner place, that inner being of who you truly are, and coming to that place of vulnerability. Most people believe that vulnerability is weakness. Vulnerability is strength. When you can be vulnerable with someone, you will literally connect on another level and you'll allow an opening of communication within your experience. I'm not talking about being a victim here. I'm not talking about being an emotional wreck. That's not what vulnerability means. Vulnerability means showing yourself. It's showing those imperfections. It's allowing yourself to be authentic and real and saying, I don't have all this shit figured out. Like, this is a human experience and we are always going to be expanding and growing. We are never going to get it done. And if you deal with people who are super ego centered, they're really living from the ego, which means this: the voice of the ego is really loud for them, and the voice of the intuition is not so loud. Whenever someone is super egotistical, it means that they have to prove themselves. So it actually means that they have less confidence than you would think. They're coming from a false perception and a false energetic push. It's a push to prove themselves and to make people listen to them, to create that feeling of control. That's what the egotistic people are. And oftentimes they're wounded. They're these wounded souls that, never got the outside validation that they needed from their families, never got the, pat on the back. They just always had to prove themselves. And because of that, they feel less than inside. So they have to do more grand things. They have to perform more. They have to be more successful. They have to show the world that they're fantastic. And I've shared this before and I'll share it again. This is why these celebrities are committing suicide, because they've reached this level and this attainment in their life and it's filled with emptiness. They never went inside. They never did the inner work. And there's so much outside validation that they lose connection with who they truly are. And even though people are like, you're great, you're great, you're great, we love you, we love you, we love you, they don't have it within. And if you don't have it within, you're gonna come from some emptiness. You're gonna come from some serious lack in that space of self-love. And isn't the attainment self-love? Like when you love yourself, you don't really need too much outside validation. It's great. I'm not going to lie. And I don't even think that I'm at the level that I am looking to be at in this lifetime with this yet. But what I'm noticing is the outside validation for me now, I get a lot of validation. I really do. From my kids, from my husband, from constant messages on Facebook and YouTube, and I really have had a powerful army of people that keep telling me to keep going, to keep playing the show, to keep sharing my experiences, to keep coaching people, to keep doing what I'm doing. And I think at some point I lived a lot of ego because I was in that network marketing company and I was put on some pretty high pedestals. I did earn it. There's no doubt about it. But that wanting to be the best, that wanting to be on stage, that wanting to win all the time, it really was so ego centered that I started to get to the point where I wanted other people to win. And I felt that way with this body fat competition too. I wanted other people to win. In fact, I connected with a few women and got them to do it because I'm like, it's so good for you. Like, it's so good for you to compete and to show yourself what's possible. It wasn't about me winning. It wasn't like, it took me that recognition of, oh my goodness, I don't need to be this person who's on stage all the time. I don't like the validation in a network marketing company is crazy. Like, it's almost like that's what people want more than money. They want to be recognized. Recognition was a huge part of our company and putting people on these pedestals and, shouting out their names on calls and putting them up on stage. I mean, we were up on stage every week, every seminar, conventions. We spoke in front of 4,000 people. I'm not telling you that to brag. I'm sharing that because I got to the point where, yes, that felt good, but from that ego-centered place. And now sharing what I share and being on a show and coaching people, it's not about filling me up and making me feel good about myself, right? It's not about that. It's more about sharing what has like really created a joyful life for me and letting this flow through me, letting that infinite wisdom of source flow through me. So in a lot of ways, I feel like I can't take super credit. Yes, I opened up to it, and yes, I feel my confidence and I feel who I truly am, and I'm excited to share that. But because I've got this, it's almost like it's a blessing and an honor, and I'm somewhat humbled by it. But I know I have work to do. I'm not perfect. I have work to do on that shit because the validation still does feel really good. It really does. It's like, oh, feels good to be good, right? Like, it feels good to be good. But you just got to make sure it's not coming from the wounds, like you're not filling up because of the wounds because you didn't get it enough when you were younger. It's not coming from a place of lack. It's fulfilling me on a standard of just more. It's just connecting with more energy, with more love, with more like, so I'm careful. I'm definitely careful, like where I do things from and where I'm coming from. And I have this saying in my head, like, don't get too big for your britches. Yeah. My husband likes to keep me humble on that stuff. He's good at that in a good way, Okay, so outside validation is all about trying to fill up because you feel lackful inside. So we got to work on that internal game, those internal voices. And if you are in a situation, so this is the thing, if you're full of self-love, if you feel whole, if you feel awesome, if you feel connected, then when somebody doesn't validate you, it's okay. It's totally okay. I recently had a relationship that ended, and I did it shitty. I did it shitty. And I'm going to be totally honest with you guys. I have a habit of this, and I'm looking at like this habit and what it comes from and why I do it. Cause that's what I do, right? I work on my shit. So I'm looking at this relationship and in all the ways that it didn't work for me anymore. And I'm realizing that I can cut people off. Like, I can do it. Like, I have got this, I'm very detached, not so much with my, by my family that I love so much here in my home, but with other people, I can definitely detach, and I can detach in a way that can feel very abrupt. And in some ways, if I was super empathic and I was thinking about the way they felt instead of thinking about what was best for me, because that's what I do now, I may feel something different, but instead I come from like, okay, this is what is good for me and this is where I need to go in my life, and this doesn't fit or work anymore, then I can be a little abrupt and possibly cause pain. However, I really connect with people and them attracting their own stuff. So I noticed this. This is deep. Stick with me here. This is deep. When we react to someone in a way that is out of character for us, which that is somewhat out of character for me because I love, and when I love fully. And I do. And I will go to an extreme on certain things for certain people if I really feel like, I've got that connection going. However, if they don't, if they feel abandonment, if they feel wounded, if they've got traumas, if they tell me that they feel like I'm not going to be in their life forever, then they manifest that from me. So it's not that I'm being you know, irresponsible and I'm not taking responsibility for the way that I treat people or the way that I act, but oftentimes, sometimes it's coming from them because it's a two-way street. So it's almost like I can't reach out and I won't reach out unless I feel really inspired to. So recently I connected and I sent an email to this person to let them know what happened for me. And I didn't get a response. And guess what? It was okay. I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel brokenhearted. I didn't feel like I needed a response. I just needed for my own integrity to share how I felt about the situation. And that was freaking freeing. It was very freeing. I don't need validation. I don't need that. On another hand, I guess I get it from other places because I do have that energy of whole, that wholeness, that not feeling broken, that not feeling like people are abandoning me. I've done the work on that. I've done a lot of healing on that. I'm sure that I've still got more work to do, but I get a lot of outside validation, I think, and I believe truly because I already feel it inside. So it's really just a reflection of the way I feel. So it's not like I gobble it up and I go, oh, yay, yay, this person said this about me. It's not like that. It's like, oh, awesome. I'm going to keep going. Thank you. That means the world to me. That feels so good, right? But I don't need it to continue. I don't, but I do appreciate it. And I do love you all for sure. Okay, let's get back to our conversation because that was a tangent. Okay. Um, Making your own opinions. So when you do this outside validation stuff, the recognition or affirmation that a person or their feelings or opinions are valid or worthwhile. That's what outside validation is. It's the recognition or affirmation that a person or their feelings or opinions are valid or worthwhile. So it's all perception. It's all judgment. It's all based on that person and what they believe and think. When you make your own opinions and self-worth less important than someone else's, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're bypassing your own well-being for them. You're bypassing your own opinion about yourself and you're giving it to them. And if you feel bad about yourself and you're super judging yourself and you're down on yourself, guess what? Everybody's going to reflect that to you because it's all an internal job. So don't put people's opinions above your own. Just don't do it. How do I feel about me? And if you're feeling any lack or any self-criticalness or self-hatred, that's when you know you got the work to do, to go in, to work on those feelings, to ask where they come from. A lot of times they're not yours. They're false belief systems that were given to you by your parents, your teachers, your siblings, right? That created this feeling of lack. So you got to do the work on that. Wanting to be perfect, right, and validating is an exhausting way to navigate life. And it doesn't give other people permission to be human. We're all human. And when we show that human perspective, when we show that we've got issues, that we've got things, that we're working on things, that we're all in this together. Hate that statement now. Ugh. But we are truly all in this journey, all on this journey of expansion and growth. We can connect and validate one another through acceptance, through love, through trust, through forgiveness. A big part of perfectionism is truly self-forgiveness. It's about forgiving yourself for being so hard on yourself, forgiving yourself for expanding and growing. I don't know. Like, why are you so hard on yourself? Can you stop being so hard on yourself? Can you? Please, please do it for the good of everyone. Stop being so hard on yourself. So many people, one of the things that I say a lot in my groups are like, be gentle. Be gentle on yourself. You're learning, you're growing, you're expanding, you're in this journey. You're in it to win it. So be gentle and have some fun along the way. It doesn't have to be so serious. When we are authentic and real and admit our mistakes, we stop having shame about our up levels, right? Because it's all about the up level. Where are we going to go with this? Are we going to let it push us down further? Are we going to let it, create more lack and a feeling of not deserving, a feeling of unworthiness? Are we going to allow this situation to do that to us and push us back down to that little girl, that little boy that never was enough? Or are we going to rise above it? Are we going to ask ourselves, where's my expansion? Where's my growth? I'm ready. Let's go. Because when we rise above it, that's when we heal. That's when we allow all this beautiful expansion and growth to take place. Feeling feeling stupid does not allow our growth or ownership or forgiveness of ourselves. When you feel stupid, I mean, truly, what is feeling stupid? It's like we didn't know something, so we should feel dumb about that. It's like, no. It's a learn this is all a learning game. So if we couldn't figure something out or we didn't, allow the wisdom to come through. So this is the other piece of this. When you're feeling dumb, when you're feeling anxious, when you're feeling like you don't know how to do something, you block the blessings and the wisdom that could flow through you when you just calm the frick down. Calm the frick down. I'm not going to swear. When you calm down and you allow yourself to really step into that flow, you're going to get information. You're going to get wisdom. You're going to get people. You're going to go, oh, I could just Google that and figure it out. That was me a lot. I'm going to just Google it and figure it out. And then you're going to see that you can figure out anything when you're not in that energy of I don't know how, in that confusion. You're going to allow clarity to come when you just calm down. And you got to have a meditation practice to create that space to be able to calm down. Trying to be perfect and send out the perception that we are perfect is a disservice to ourselves and others. I'll say it again. Trying to be perfect and send out the perception that we are perfect is a disservice to ourselves and others, because we're not allowing people to really be authentic and real of themselves. And it's not our responsibility to worry about the way people think or the way that, our journey may make people feel. That's not our responsibility. That's hyper responsibility if you're worried about that shit. It is our responsibility to come to the table and be who we are. Be who we truly are. Share it all. Not be this open book that talks about your problems all the time, but just being real. Understanding, being relatable, deeply connecting with people is going to make your journey so much richer and so much more beautiful. So to overcome perfectionism, here we go. We're going to meditate. You got to have a meditation practice. I have a teaching on my website, www.livelifegolden.com. It's a great teaching to help you to either create a meditation practice or get deeper. Starting on November, the first Wednesday of November, I think it's the 3rd, I hope. Check me. Check the details on that one, but I think it's November 3rd. We are opening up our M21 Revolution group to a 21-day meditation challenge where you're going to be able to every single day commit to that meditation practice. And we're going to give you helpful tools and videos and guided meditations. There's a ton of stuff in that group. It's M21 Revolution on Facebook. Come into our group. It's a donation-based challenge. It's a great way for you to get a little sample of what I teach. And my beautiful partner in M21 is Jess Gumkowski. She teaches yogic philosophies and mindfulness and universal law. She's an athlete. She's a vegan. She is amazing. She's truly amazing. So you can connect with us on that. Just ask to be invited to M21 Revolution. Forgive yourself. So forgiveness of self means you start to let yourself off the hook more. You stop beating yourself up. You disconnect from that self-critical voice. So if you notice you're getting a lot of beating yourself up, you've got to interrupt. You got to get some mind training into place. That's what my groups are all about. Mind training, universal law, all that stuff. Mind training means you get really good at awareness of your thoughts and then interruption. So you're no longer tuning into the frequency. So a couple mantras that help to interrupt is no one's perfect. Hey, no one's perfect. I did my best. I did my best. Now, if that's not true, that may not feel good. Okay. So I like kind of the mantra of I did my best that I knew how to do at the time. I did all I could. I did what I could. It is what it is. There you go. Love that saying. It is what it is. I'm human and everything is part of my expansion and growth. That's a really good one. I'm human and everything is a part of my expansion and growth. So then asking yourself, coming into this place of knowing truly who you are. Hold on, I got to grab my other notes. I got more notes for you people. These shows, I'm telling you, I got a lot to say these days. Taking the bounce. So what taking the bounce means is we look at the situation, we do the work, we do the inner work, and then we decide that we're going to take the up level. So where do I go from here? What do I learn from this? Just like the detail thing, just like, screwing up these appointments. What do I do differently moving forward? I double, triple check. Triple check my appointments. I make sure they're in my calendar right, because that's one thing I do that's wrong. I double check the world clock, make sure I'm on the right time zone, because that has been an issue in the past. What do I need to learn from this? How can I do things differently? All these questions, when you go within and start asking, the answers are going to come. You may not get them right in that moment, but before you know it, you're going to have people coming, calling, situations, and you're going to get the answers to these questions. How do I do this better? You're going to meet a person who's doing it great that's going to show you the way. What needs to be healed is always one of my favorite questions. What needs to be healed in me? With this detailed stuff, maybe it is part of, I think a big piece of it has been my lack of confidence in the business world, my lack of confidence to create an income stream. That has been, boom, I just hit it. That's what it is. It's like being a business person, keeping my appointments straight, living in this world of business when I just want to be in this world of spirituality. It's like, okay, you're up here, you're in this different dimension, and now you got to come down. You got to be on a time. You got to be on time, right? So when I feel that, when I say that, oh yeah, that's right, you're in higher frequencies. You're not in this dense physical world where there's time and appointments and all of that stuff, right? Like that makes me feel better. It's like, oh shit, yeah, that's right. I've got other gifts and talents. I might not be able to keep our appointments straight, but when we meet, I'm going to blow your socks off, right? So that makes me feel better. So what can I heal from this? What needs to be healed? Perfectionism does not allow you to be your true and whole self because what ends up happening is you've got a layer of protection around yourself to keep yourself from really being seen, to keep yourself from really being seen in all of your truth, in all of your vulnerability. It really helps you to not connect with people. It creates a disconnection with people because if they're looking at you, perfect pancake mom, right? They're not going to tell you how shitty their pancakes come out. They're not going to do that because now they're trying to live up to your perfect pancake standard. And maybe they've made 10 pancakes in their life because they were out kicking ass in a law firm, and you've made 200 pancakes because you've chosen to stay home with your kids, right? So what are we doing? This comparisonitis. It's like so silly because we've all got our own gifts and talents that are amazing, and we're comparing ourselves, just like my show a couple times ago about comparing myself to Joanna Gaines, who has this, multi million-dollar situation she's running over there. And I realize Joanna Gaines can't do what I do. She can't share what I share. She doesn't have what I have. She's got something very different and very cool and really awesome that I can, that I can look at and say, that's awesome, but it's not what I want to do. I'm not good at math. I think you have to be good at math to be Joanna Gaines. Oh, I just said I'm not good at math. I don't care to be good at math is not something that I want to pursue. Let's put it that way. I think if you're Joanna Gaines, you need to know a little bit about math. You need to be pretty solid on the math thing and the dimensions and all the stuff that she does with the furniture, right? So, what are we doing? Holding ourselves to these impossible standards. We're promoting jealousy, disconnection, shutting down our hearts. If we really want to be, if we really want to be true to our true callings, our true nature, we've got to open our hearts. We got to be real. We got to be honest. We got to be us. We got to be you. You got to be you. Be forgiving, compassionate, and understanding to yourself in the journey that you came here to unfold, to the journey that you came here to live. You didn't come here to be perfect. You came here to live a life experience in all of its facets, learning, expanding, and growing, and never, ever surrendering to failure. It's like you can't fail if you keep going, right? There's no such thing as failure if you keep going. And anything that even looks remotely like a failure is really just, it's an invitation to heal. It's an invitation to recalibrate your desires, right? All right. So like if I was to look at my body fat competition as a failure, right? I came in second. It was a big joke. I'm the Susan Lucci of body fat competitions. You know, Susan Lucci from All My Children. I think she went up 7 times for the Grammy, the daytime Grammy. I think she got it like the 7th or 8th time. She came in second every time. So that was the big joke, which was hilarious. And now we're saying that I gave I gave the Susan Lucci curse to my husband. I love that we can have fun with this stuff. But if I had looked at that as a failure, you know, the first time when I came in second, if I had looked at that as a failure and I gave up and I said, oh, screw that, I'm not doing that again. I had plenty of people that said that. Oh, I gave my $100. I'm not giving $100 again. Every time, if you keep continuing to, you know, get in these challenges, your determination gets stronger. My determination and my fine tuning of energy was so much more on point this time than any other time before. All the other times, I feel like I was holding on really tight. I was trying to make it happen. I was somewhat desperate, right? Desperate for what? To prove myself to who? My gym? I don't know. Myself? I think a lot of it was myself. You know, being 49 now, I'm like, okay, you know, I'm going to compete. I'm going to win. I'm going to do this thing. But at the end of the day, the winning was really just that performance of expansion and growth for me. It was like, where do I go from here? How do I fine tune this? How do I do it differently? How do I get into that stream and flow of abundance and joy? And this month, I probably had more fun working out than I have maybe ever. I mean, even like the last month, ever since my husband joined, we have a really good time together. We work out hard, but we have fun. And I think that's part of what we lose when we get into these competitions and we get too serious with life. We're all getting a little too freaking serious here. When we let go, when we relax, allow, we get lighthearted, we feel the joy of who we are, we allow the abundance to flow. When we do that, life takes on a different energy field. You tune into a different frequency, and then everything starts topping. It starts topping. Like yesterday, we went to I love Sundays because we often relax. Sometimes we relax too much on Sundays and then we're just like really super tired. But yesterday we decided we were going to go out and have fun and we were going to eat and drink because we haven't done that in a while. So I was like kind of mapping out like my food and what I was going to eat that day. And we didn't do super gross. We really didn't. We're not like that because we don't like feeling like crap. So we went to this Hotel Laguna. Hotel Laguna just opened after being closed since 2017. It is so beautiful. I'll post pictures on my Facebook and Instagram of the view because the view is like, I think it's maybe one of the best in Laguna Beach besides the Cliff restaurant. That one's also really good. But their food is really good. So my friend on Fun Friday was super fun this time around as always. We went to the Hotel Laguna for lunch. We sat outside in the sun and we had these amazing tacos, and then we sat on the beach and it was amazing. So my husband and I went back. So the view was beautiful. The food was great. The service was, they need some help, definitely training people. But we ended up walking around and this was kind of cool. We sat next to the lifeguard tower. If you've ever seen the lifeguard tower in Laguna Beach, it's kind of iconic. So it was really windy and kind of chilly. It was in the 60s and we weren't dressed right for it. We weren't really prepared to go sit on the beach either. We just had our clothes on our back. So we went around this lifeguard tower and we sat down to block the wind and sit in the sun and just like relax and chill out. Felt amazing. But we were sitting next to these people who were super chatty. And so we're like, you know, eavesdropping on their whole conversation and hearing their life stories and, you know, sitting there going, okay, I hope they leave soon because it would be really nice to have some quiet. So they ended up leaving probably half an hour after we were there, maybe 45 minutes. And when they left, the joy of silence was like the capacity for the quiet was the joy was way up leveled than if we had sat down and no one was ever there. So that contrast, right? That hearing this whole conversation having the desire for these people to leave and then for them to leave felt amazing. So that was an up level. So after that, we left and we went grocery shopping, which I love to do with my husband. It's always great when you have a buddy, right? Did our grocery shopping, brought our groceries home, and then went out to dinner to one of my favorite restaurants in San Juan, and I had shrimp scampi and gluten-free pasta. Oh, so good. Had some beautiful wine, great conversation. We sat near this fire. Oh my gosh, the fire up leveled it because it was chilly, and we just, in this super cozy little bar that we like to sit at, and great service, just amazing. So then afterwards we're like, oh, we should probably go home. And then we're like, oh, why don't we go for a walk? It's a beautiful night. Let's go for a walk. So we go for a walk and literally felt led down this street. There's these other restaurants that we go to often, and this San Juan Capistrano is this beautiful, cute little town. There's a mission there. It's really beautiful. And all of a sudden we hear this music, like this guy singing this incredible music and playing this incredible guitar. I have never seen anyone play the guitar. He was like making love to this guitar. So we stop dead on the sidewalk and we have like a beeline. We can see him. And we're just standing there for so long, like 10, 15 minutes, just like kind of with our jaws open. He's playing all of our like childhood music, like all the 70s stuff. And he's flowing into each song. He was so channeling music. It was so beautiful. And he was flowing into each song where we actually had to, like, we were playing like name that tune, like, who is this? Because he made it his own and his voice was so beautiful. And he had this gorgeous, beautiful long hair and a beard. And he was so in his zone. And I'm looking around the restaurant and I'm like, no one is paying attention to this. This is like gold. This music is like, I can feel it in every cell of my being, like vibration and wisdom and source and all of that. I could feel it. So I thought to myself, and it's like 8:30, 9 o'clock, and we get up at 4:30. So this is like past the bedtime. And I think to myself, if someone invites us in there, I'm going in, right? So we're just standing there, and all of a sudden he looks up, like he must have felt our energy because he was so in his zone, and he gives us this huge smile, right? And then we stand there for like another 7 minutes just watching and listening and in awe. And then he looks up and he goes, come on in. And I was like, let's go. So we go in, um, gave him a great donation because I just wanted to connect on his gifts. So we ended up talking to him. He was from Brazil. He was beautiful. Nicholas Fassard, I think his name is. You know what? I'll put his name in the show notes because you got to look him up on Instagram. He's phenomenal. So he plays in a band. He lives in LA and he comes down to Orange County a lot to perform. And I was like, and I realized too, our capacity for joy for live music is exponential right now because we went so long without it. So that kicked it up. But his talent and his ability to move music and move was incredible. So we sat there and listened to him for like an hour, and it was an up level of that experience for sure. And it just topped our night. When we thought our night was over, when we thought we were coming home to watch TV and go to bed, it was like, oh yeah, you love what's happening? How about this? Can you love more? Can you appreciate more? And that's how frequency tuning works. Appreciation, love, tuning into goodness, tuning into what's good in life, appreciating being with each other. There was so much of that yesterday, just loving being with one another, no matter what we're doing. It's like, we just love it. So being present with people and really loving and appreciating the life that you're in is going to give you more reasons to do that. You're going to see miracles. You're going to see things happening. My daughter was at the beach with her daughter, just enjoying the sunset, and they had hot chocolate because it was chilly, and they were just loving life, and they see dolphins, like tons of dolphins jumping. Like, that's how it works. It's like you meet the universe with your happiness and your joy and your love and your appreciation, and boom, you're going to get more of it and more of it and more of it. And that's how you turn the tides. That's how you turn the tides of your life towards joy and away from the seriousness and the yuckiness and the muckiness of what you have been experiencing, by allowing yourself to be more, allowing yourself to rise to the plate. All right. Well, that is my conversation for today. You can find me at www.livelifegolden.com, or you can email me at livelifegolden@gmail with a Y. If you have ideas for the show, I do work off of what's happening to the people around me. Absolutely. I am group coaching quite a few groups right now. So I'm going to step back from that for a little bit. And I think probably for the rest of the year, I am not going to launch another program because I am going to start working on products. So I'll be able to share some products with you guys and some different teachings. And I've got another book in the works. So I'm going to open up some time on that as well. So I'm super excited about that. But if you want to actually get some of my work right now and work with me on M21, that would be awesome. M21 Revolution on Facebook. And I have my meditation teaching on my website. I'm going to be working on a parenting program. Very excited about that. That will be a digital program that for purchase. Soulmate, how to attract your soulmate. I'm putting this on here today because this is where I need to show up. So I've been talking about these things for a little while, and I'm going to put them on here so that I've got my integrity is out there with you people as well. So I'm going to do how to attract your soulmate, whether you're married to them or still looking for them, how to connect on that soulmate level and connect with someone and connect with the belief systems and the wholeness of who you are so you can attract that partner, that lover, what you are looking to create with someone, that co-creation process. So soulmates, I made a list. I don't think I have it here. Parenting, soulmates, couples. I'm doing a product on couples. And if I can get my husband along on that, I think that would be awesome. But just relationships, marriage, partnership, all of the stuff that goes along with that, and how to up level that experience, how to up level the family experience. That's what that one will be about. And some guided meditations. I would love to work with this guy I met yesterday on some guided meditations and have him put music to it because, I think I found the guy I want to do this with. He was amazing and brilliant and a great conversationalist as well. So thank you, universe, for up leveling my experience all the time. But I, got to take some credit myself because that's where I'm tuned in. That's the frequency of what I want to tune into. And that's what I teach, the mind training piece. How do I connect with those things that I most want to be with? It's not through lack. It's not through wishing. It's not through hoping. It's not through misery. It's through happiness, love, and appreciation for what you have right now, for what is truly good in your life right now. All right. I love you all, and peace.